Welcome to Ultimate DIY, where you learn to be your own handyman. And today we're going to take this beautiful little 1920s cottage and we are going to give it a facelift. When I say facelift, what we're basically going to do is we're going to clean everything up with a little power washing. We're going to come back and paint. If you notice, they had shutters on the side here of the house, and the paint color that they used did not even match. So we're going to fix all of that. We have some brickwork we need to do. We have some foundation work we need to do where the foundation is kind of crumbling away. If you've never seen how that's done, be sure you stay tuned and see how we take care of that. We have some wood rot areas that we're going to fix. We're going to sand the railing down, and I'm probably going to even change that color so that it matches the actual entrance gate. Now, a lot of you have been asking me, hey, this is great, but how do I know if I'm actually saving anything? How much does it cost to do something like this? What we're going to do at the very end in the reveal is I'm going to give you the cost of what, something like this costs to be done, and then what you can actually expect to pay in materials and how much you can save. So be sure you see the end in the big reveal so that you can see all of those numbers. So without any further ado, guys, let's go ahead, get out the little power washer. Now, by the way, this is going to be the small power washer because all I want to do is lightly clean. So I'm not going to bring out the big boy, my 4,000 PSI DeWalt. We're going to bring out a little electric power washer and just kind of clean off all the dirt. And then once we get done with that, we'll start doing all the caulking and the prep work and sanding down the railings and get ready to start painting, masking everything off. So let's get to it. Hey guys, real quick, have you ever wondered what it costs to have your house power washed? How about paint it? How about do a kitchen makeover or a bathroom makeover, or one of the thousands of things a homeowner can do to improve their property? Have you also wondered what you could save as a DIYer just getting the materials and doing it yourself? Well, that's going to be one of the segments that we are going to put into our weekly newsletter that you can get by going to the description of this video and following the link and signing up. Hope you become part of the DIY family. Now let's get back to the video. Okay guys, there you go. We have all of that filled in. Now that took 3 buckets of this ready mixed concrete patch. This is a sack acryl. It's an acrylic based product. Now, one of the things you need to look at is make sure that whatever product you get, make sure it works vertical and horizontal. So if you're going to be applying it like this, you want it to stick, otherwise it will just run off. I will tell you, this is a little pricey. At the time of this filming, it was about 36 bucks a gallon. The reason I wanted the acrylic is because so we put this on and it will actually give a water, proof base to keep from eroding the concrete, because they have sprinklers like this one here, they have another one here, and it's hitting the house, and so over time it is just eroded. Now remember, this house is 1920s, so it's a very old foundation. The disadvantage that I see right off the bat is it's gray. It does not look like concrete. The advantage is it's paintable. Paint will give it another layer of protection. Now, sanding, this stuff sands extremely well. But the fact that it's sandable and the fact that it's paintable is great. They do have a couple of products that are going to run about half So if you've got regular brick and you're not planning on painting it, then you're going to want to tape that off really well. And you may want to try one of the other products unless you are worried about water penetration like I am here and I wanted something acrylic. We are now to the caulking stage. So you're going to go around all the windows, caulk around any seams where your siding meets, which I have siding on that side. Make sure that those are all caulked. There's supposed to be steel behind those seams, but a lot of times there isn't. Now when it comes to the brick, if it's small spots, I'll use caulk. If it is a big structural area, I will go ahead and mix up a little mortar and I'll pack it with mortar and then sand it smooth. We're going to go around all the brick, the siding, and we're going to fill in any of these holes. There used to be shutters here and right here, and they had drilled big holes. You want to fill those in because once you paint, it's going to smooth it out and look a lot better. I started doing some of this last night. We're going to do a little bit more because when you put a lot of caulk, it tends to sink in overnight as it dries. So that's the reason you're already seeing some here is I pre-caulked yesterday, but like spots like this, there's one I missed right here. You know, we want to go back and do it again. All right, guys, so if you used a lot of filler to fill in cracks and problems with the grout, you want to go back and sand the F up, especially when it's sandy, because that will definitely show up through paint. So you want to smooth it and kind of blend it. All right, guys, we are going to be fixing this piece here. I've already put the new wood on. The customer accidentally backed up and hit the corner, knocked it loose. So I just cut and put some treated wood on here. And I did this last week so it can start drying out before I put paint on. When you deal with treated lumber, especially if you're on the ground, that's the best place to put it, but you have to keep in mind that it has to dry out. Now, I have a hole right here, and the customer didn't want to pull off all of the trim and the windows and redo this whole piece. So we're going to fix this with some Durhams. This water putty is extremely strong. It's probably 3 or 4 times as strong as actual wood. You just have to make sure you get it painted. When you have a big hole, a void, you need to put something like some plastic or something down in there to fill that void so you don't have a ton of this stuff going in there. You just want to cover the surface, probably about a good 1/4 inch of the surface. Now you can also use backer rod here. I know some of you don't like backer rod. I use quite a bit of it, but when I have a big hole like that, I'll take a plastic bag or something, put it in there so that it'll hold this out a little bit, let it dry, then I can come back and sand. I like to use an egg beater. I like to take my Durhams. It's going to be very powdery. Be very gentle with the water. You want to leave it just a little bit hard like this when you mix it up, and you got to move fast because this stuff sets up pretty quick, and then you just fill in the hole. And what we'll do, we leave it a little bit proud, we'll come back and sand and it'll be good to go. We'll caulk all the seams and we can paint. So we have all the plastic shoved in here, and let's see if we can get some of this on real quick before it sets up all the way. like that. And you're going to end up leaving it a little bit proud, like I did in the back, so that it can be sanded. But this stuff is very hard, so you don't want to leave it too high. All right, so now when we come back, we can flatten this out really good and make that nice. Okay guys, I have been sanding on this for about 20 minutes to bring it down with an actual power sander, to give you guys an idea of just how rock solid that stuff is. This stuff is amazing, and it makes a really hard bond. And I'm going to show you what I've been doing. You can tip it a little to make sure you're feathering these edges all the way down, but you want to be going flat back and forth as much as you can to try to flatten this out. Now I'm going to tell you, this actual board, trim board, was a little proud from this one, so I'm having to really kind of shape that. Now I've got some little bitty pieces here that are going to show up when it's painted, so what I want to do is cover that up with a little bit more of the putty. So we're going to pop this open and make just a little bit. I don't need much because I just have these little bitty spots. Now you could almost just use a little caulking, but the caulk to me leaves it just a little bit, it sinks in. So you can still see it when it's painted, especially if you're using a satin or a little bit of a gloss paint, like a semi-gloss or something. You definitely want to make sure. We are going to be using a satin, and that is the trim, so I don't want a lot of little potholes and stuff in there. So we're going to put a little water. Remember, you don't need a lot of water mixing this stuff. It's mixing up really good, and I don't want a lot. Now I could use this one to put it on, but this one's got some old silicone on it and things like that, so it doesn't go very smooth. So we're going to use the other one. Let's see if I can get some of this on here. And I don't want to put a lot, I just want to get it where it really smooths out anything that might have a little pit in it. So what you're going to want to do is take the knife. You don't want it tipped way back like this. If it's tipped back like this, you're just going to pull everything off. So what you're wanting to do is tip it the other way and barely slide across, keeping on contact on both sides, and then that way you will actually even everything out. So we're going to take it and go just like that. It's good. Now I'm going to put a little extra pressure on this side. And actually I'm going to flip it this way so it's clean, and I'm going to do that. There we go. And then I'm going to do the other side. Looks really good. And one more time, just like that. So a couple of quick things though about the Durham's rock hard putty, water putty, is that it goes on extremely easy, and where a lot of putties and caulks and things will shrink in a little as they dry, the funny thing about the Durham's is it actually expands just a little. I still always leave it a little proud because I can sand it off, but you're probably not going to sand that by hand very easily. You're going to need a power sander, something like this, to get everything down nice and tight. Now another thing I did not mention, this is not only paintable, but it is stainable as well. And I believe they mentioned it works better with water-based stains, but it'll stain and look just like the regular wood. This right here, I just removed all of this caulk in this corner. It had a ton of caulk, and probably over the years this is kind of spread out and dropped a little in the corner. So somebody just caulked it like crazy, trying to cover it up, and that's really thick. Okay, you don't want that much caulk. What you're going to use is this stuff called backer rod. You get this at big box stores. You can get it on Amazon. I'll try to leave a link for it, but you can buy it in different sizes. And you're going to take this and simply fill in the crack. to actually break it off, and you're going to work it in. And by doing this, you're filling that gap so that you don't have to put so much caulk. Now, regular caulking, you're just going to break the end. I like to have mine a little pointed. This one we're going to actually put quite a bit in, so it doesn't matter that we pull off. Put this in. Now, you do not have to puncture the seal on regular caulk. Now, silicone, you will. Now, this particular gun has notches at the bottom. You have to turn this up. When you go to release, you flip this back, and it releases the pressure so it doesn't get caulk everywhere. All right, so here we go. I'm going to start up here. Start feeding it in. Now flip it like that. It releases. You might still get a little on this one, but not a whole lot. Okay guys, it's time to focus on the rails. Now the rails were white in the very beginning. Like you can obviously see, I've spent hours trying to sand this down and make it look really nice. I will be honest with you, my hands are vibrating from that sander, but we are going to use a special paint. Now there's several ways to paint this. You can paint it with a spray can, which is the Rust-Oleum type paint, which helps great with rust spots. Even if you've got rust on it, it covers it up and stops that rust. I can also use my big Airless sprayer, but this is an oil-based paint. It's a pain to clean out the sprayer. So the other option I have is an HVLP sprayer. I have a couple of the little small handheld ones that I could do this with, and those work really well because they're high volume, low pressure, meaning they're not going to throw a whole lot of air out and make it underneath these blankets, which this black generally will find a way to get under the blankets. And this is a dyed concrete, so I don't want to be out here trying to repair the concrete. So we are going to go ahead and hand paint this. Now we'll use a cabinet roller like this and just a regular like sash brush, and we will go through and kind of clean it. I'm not going to worry about this up here right now because I'll be spraying. That way when I get ready to start spraying, wrap everything off for all the paint back here, I can just throw tarps over my railings. If there's enough paint left over, we're going to jump on the gate and maybe repaint the gate. That wasn't part of the deal, but it keeps the customers happy. I always like to give a little something extra for the customers. So let's go ahead, get it open. We're going to try to start brushing it on. I'm going to start probably here on this side, work my way around, and like I said, leave the top alone. So let's see how it works. If you're not familiar with oil-based paints, it's much runnier than a latex. So you have to be very careful pouring it into your pail or container, whatever it is that you're going to be painting from. You're going to need to load up your brushes and load up your roller. Now, a cabinet roller does not require near as much loading up, and you don't want too much on an oil-based paint. Now, when we go to apply this, what we're looking for is a thin coat. We don't want to overdo it. Too many guys try to get it all in the first pass, and they don't want to have to put a second coat. The problem with that is you end up with a lot of runs, and you will end up having to go back and sand those and start over. So what I am doing here is just trying to get my base coat on, and then after I paint everything else, the very end, we will come back and do a little bit more paint here and make it look really sharp. Just like that. And if you're doing it correctly, you should still see some of your original finish shining through. That means you're not putting it on too thick. You're doing just what you're supposed to be doing. There we go. Now, in my case, you're still going to see some of the old paint flakes because I sanded it as smooth as possible, but it's almost impossible to get it perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and get all this painted, and we'll maybe move to that gate. Okay guys, we are now to the masking stage. Now I like to use a 3M masker. Now I know a lot of you DIYers are probably not gonna have this tool. It's fairly expensive. I believe it runs maybe 40, 50 bucks, maybe even 60, depending on where you're at. But it definitely saves time. You put the roll on the side. You have to make sure you tuck it under both of these little guides. A lot of people miss this first guide, and it'll just barely be on the edge. You generally have to keep fixing it as you go along. You'll have to add a cutter because the cutter doesn't usually come with the tool. I ordered that, I believe, on Amazon as well, but it definitely makes it easier. Now, I'm going to show you how to use this one and to maybe use a masker, and then I'm going to show you how to do it by hand as well. So a lot of you guys are going to be just covering your windows by hand. So, and by the way, they do have a really cool product you can spray on the window and then you peel it off after. And I'll probably do that in a later video and show you how that works. Now, the one that I have with me today is only a 48 inch. So these are slightly longer. It's going to stop about right here. So I'll have to put a second layer on at the very bottom of this one. But I want to show you how it works. So all you're going to do is you're going to take it and start it at the top. Right in here somewhere is good. Come down just like that. And right about there, then you just cut. All right? Very, very simple to do. Then I'm going to fold this over the top so that it doesn't pull loose. Make sure it's on really good, and then you just reach underneath and you're going to pull it down. Now they have these in all different lengths, so I would have one that would go all the way to the end of this window. I believe they go all the way up to 6 to 8 foot, somewhere in that range. So they cover quite a bit. I didn't go grab a whole bunch of this, but I just wanted to show you this thing because we're going to do a lot of these by hand just so that you can kind of see how it's done. All right, so I do that. Now you'll notice plastic tends to stick to the window, which is perfect. That's what you want. And what I do is I'll tuck it this way a little, this way, so that it will be able to stay on that window. And I always keep an extra roll, and I'll take this roll and go down the side. Just like this. Now this is lap siding. You're going to have little pockets here where the laps are that you're not going to be able to get the tape on. So what you do is you'll come back after you get everything done, you're painting this white, and you will just touch up right around those areas and cut in. That is generally going to be the best. Now I go ahead and carry my tape all the way down, even though I'm going to put a second piece, and then I'll fold over. Now this is not going to make it on all of them. I'm way over here. So I'm going to pull it this way a little, try to give myself enough room so that the tape will cover. There we go. That's looking pretty good. Probably blocking your view. Sorry about that. Let's see if we can get this over just a little more. And this stuff sticks so good, it's hard to get it to move. Just like that. And now, if you have a little piece that you don't quite make it, you can always put a little extra tape right at that area. Now remember, I'm going to be painting these windows too, so if it does get a little paint on it, on this, not so bad. I just don't want it on the glass. Now you can clean the glass with a razor blade, but it's just going to take you a lot more time. If you do this, there we go. If you do this, you won't have to necessarily worry so much about coming back and cleaning all of this up. It'll save you a lot of time later. So I do the same thing over here on the wood. And then what I'll do also, like say I put this up today and tomorrow I'm going to paint, I will come back and double check. I'll push everything down, make sure it's sealed good. If I need to add any more little tape in areas, I can. Let me tell you, tape's not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper than your time fixing all of the problems. Since I do not have a long enough one, I'm going to put a second little piece across here. So what you want to do is tuck everything up and under this way, not over the top. Tape it over the top. If you pull it over the top and then tape that, it can just actually pull away. So you want all of this stuff tucked underneath here. And what I'll do in this case is I'm going to pull it down to right about the bottom of this, so I have some place for my tape to stick. Hold it while I open this tape in. I'll do like that right there. Okay guys, I'm going to take one of the larger windows and try to mask this off with just some regular plastic and show you how you do it if you're a DIY and you did not have a masker. Now by myself it's a little harder. If you have a helper, it definitely helps with something like this. We're going to just simply take it and kind of get it over here about to where it goes. I'm going to come over here just like it. And by the way, you can buy these rolls. I believe it's about 35, 40 bucks for a big giant roll of this stuff, and it will go a very long way. And I use a lot of this. You know, those small rows that I was using for the masker, those run usually about 10 bucks or so a roll. So that can add up rather quickly on you, but it definitely saves you a lot of time. All right, so I'm gonna take and fold this down a little till I get one piece of it, and I will usually take a piece of masking tape and put it here. Now, if you are masking on brick, you want to use the 2020. It's a 3M tape. It works really well on the brick. You'll notice this stuff does not stick to the window quite as well, but it will still do the job. On here, I want to leave a little bit of the wood exposed to be able to put my tape. All right, guys, so we got that. Then all we're going to do is tape the top the same way. And one last thing I do, especially on this thinner plastic to give it a little bit more holding power, is I will put a cross across it with my tape. What this does is it helps me a little bit if it gets real windy. Kind of gives it a little bit more stability so it doesn't start just ripping up. All right, guys, it's time to go ahead and start the painting. What we're doing today is we're going to paint the base paint. We do have a white trim that goes underneath. We will go ahead and paint up, trying not to put a lot of pepper paint on top of the actual shingles. And then I will come back the next day and we will paint the actual trim. And I usually do that by hand and cut it in real quick. Now I'm going to start at the very top. I always start at the top, work my way down. So we're going to climb up and start at the fireplace. Now I'm using just a regular, this is about a 6-inch extension here. We're going to go ahead, we may have to switch it to a longer one when I get on the other side of the fireplace. We'll address that when it gets here. I'm probably going to pull you guys in and show you how I open up the paint, how I mix it really quick, and how I set up the sprayer, how I prime it, and then we'll get to spraying. So let's do that. All right, guys, so the very first thing I'm going to point out is I'm using a 417 spray tip. This 417 spray tip gives me a 8-inch wide path, which is not too narrow, so I'm not going to be here all day, but I can control overspray a little more, and it works really well with latex paint. So we're going to put that in. Now, one thing I'll suggest, when you get your paint, go ahead and take a picture of your label. Take a picture of both, even though the label tells you exactly which paint it was, but it will tell you a color mixture on it. Do that before you do anything else, because it's very easy to get paint on everything, and then you don't know what paint it was you had unless they saved that for you at the paint store. So we're going to open that up. I also have my mixer ready. Now they pre-mix these, or pre-shake these I should say, but sometimes I will add just a little bit of water, even if it says not to, because it helps it get through the sprayer. I always keep a bucket of a little water and a towel nearby. I can take this top off and put my hose directly down in that top, but I like to take the top itself off. Let's see how tight that one is. It's not too bad. And actually the paint looks mixed good. So we're going to try it first, see if it'll prime before I add any water. If I start adding water, I'm probably going to have to pull this top. So we're going to simply take it and put it over here, just like this. And what I'll do is I'll turn my machine so that I get this right here close by, and I just simply will put this down inside. Now you have an overflow here. This is where you help prime, so you want to make sure that that is able to get in here a little bit easier. There we go, just like this. So I want to make sure I can get this down in there, just like that. And then I'm going to turn it on. And actually I have a little button that helps prime on this machine up in the front. I generally will push that first. Now you'll turn this all the way to just start. Right there, there's a start on your actual knob. You pull this up so you can see. It is right here. You'll turn this to the start position. And let's see what will happen here. Okay. So I'll take the other lever to prime it. There we go, just like that. And I will see if I have got anything. Now I do not have my tip in yet. Let's see. Right now we just have water still coming out. Now I'm putting it in the dirt here because I can use a shovel and kind of bury it when a little paint does come out. There we go, we're starting to get the paint. Right there, and it looks like it's coming through pretty good. So now we're going to go ahead and open up our tip. Now this has a little piece in it that you can put in here. Mine already has it in the gun here, which should be fine. So I usually only use this other little tip if I'm putting a new guard on the front. Now when you're doing these, you have when the arrow is going backwards, that's to clean the tip, and then you turn it forward to spray. Let's see what we got. And we are spraying very good. So I'm going to start at the very top. I always start at the top and work my way down. So what I'll do, guys, is I will put a blanket down just to help with overspray, just in case I miss a little with my guard. Gives me just a little bit more protection. This is the guard. Let's get this thing rocking and rolling. Alright guys, we are up on the porch and we are now going to spray. Now this gets the ceiling as well. The light is covered, door is covered. Make sure your doorbell chimes are covered. Anything like even this, they have a little hook here. I guess they put a reef. It's covered, windows. Spend that time, make sure it's good, because you will reap the benefits at the end. Now I will use the shield some to block some of this black off here, because remember I've got to finish the tops. Okay guys, we have 3 coats of paint on the actual base all the way around. A couple things to keep in mind. If you are painting brick, be prepared, it's probably going to take a lot more paint. This was actually 3 full coats. I talked to the customer. This house had literally not been painted in 30 years. That's why there was so much prep work here and why it has taken so much paint. So keep those things in mind when you're painting. Now today I'm going to go and we are going to cut the trim in all the way around the windows, the tops, and give it that really nice final look. Now keep in mind your weather and your sun. This part of the house gets the most sun, so I'm going to start here while it's still somewhat shaded so that I'm not working in the sun. Today it's supposed to be 103 degrees. It's going to be the first day in the season that's going over the 100 mark. So I want to get this part done so I can do the rest in the shade. Now I like to use a good sash brush. Now I like to use a good sash brush like this one that is angled, a little bit of a stiff bristle. You're going to want to take and have a bucket with water and a rag. What we are using is a latex exterior acrylic type paint, but you're going to want to take your brush, dip it in the water, get it a little wet. It'll actually help when it comes time to clean, believe it or not. I like to use a little bucket like this with the throwaway inserts so I can hold it like this and go up and work around the tops. To me it's easier. I can actually handle it better and move quicker. This also has a magnet in it, so I can actually stick my brush to the side while I'm going up and down. So we are going to open the paint. The paint should already be stirred pretty well because I just had it mixed. And they give you these little tools to get the actual paint buckets open. I would suggest getting a couple of these. Are generally free at your big box stores like Lowe's, Home Depot, probably Ace, wherever it is you're getting your paint. Now the paint I'm going to use, this one I did not have to tint. We are going to do a bright white. So it looks very good. So we're going to pour a little in and we are going to start getting this thing painted. So let's do that. Killer trim, it's curved. This is really an interior type trim that got used here on the outside. A lot of these older homes, that's exactly what they used. All right guys, I'm gonna give you a quick close-up of how you actually do this. What I'll do is I'll dip my brush in the paint, get off the excess so that my point is really, and this is what I mean about the point. I love the points, it helps a lot. And then I'll start in an area and I just drag. Let the brush bristles get close to the edge just like that. And keep the brush wet, don't let it get too dry. Just like that there. And try to keep it off of. Now you can run a piece of tape down here too, which will make it a lot easier to have a straight edge. Now if you get a little too deep, which I think I did there, it's where your rag will come in. Take your rag and just go ahead and pull that off. There we go, and now we can re-pull. And I'm still trying to keep that grain of the paint going the same direction. Long movements. Okay guys, we are getting close to winding down, but this area right here is ripped out. They had a plumbing leak and they had to have the plumbers run the pipes underneath the house. So they just cut this open and then they left it. This is a perfect place for rodents and things to climb in, so you don't want to leave it that way. So I have a couple options of fixing it. I can put wire back over it, some mesh, and try to, you know, silicone that in or whatever. But if they ever have to get in, they're going to rip it out again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a small piece of soffit, the vented soffit, cut it to go on and silicone it and paint it so it matches. That way it doesn't look real bad, but if anybody has to ever get in, they can just use a razor knife, cut around the edges, pop the little panel out, and they can get pipes back in here. Now you have two options. You can go around the outside, but I think that would look awful. We're going to cut it to try to go inside here just a little and then silicone that. So let me show you how we do that. So the first thing you're going to want to do is take your measurement. You're going to take your width and you're going to take your height, and they are not totally square. So you're going to need to take those measurements and then we're going to transfer it over. And use my square. Just like that. I'm going to do it about like that. So that is my square that I want. You simply set your saw blade depth. Try to cut to the other side of your line. It gives you the exact measurement. I cut mine on the line on purpose to give myself a little wiggle room because that piece tapers in. And that way it'll allow me to shove it a little bit further in. that piece. Let's go see how it fits. This is what I'm talking about tapering. I don't know if it shows in the video, but it's bigger here than it is back here. It tapers up. So if water hits that, it runs away. There we go. Perfect fit. And now we are going to simply put our caulk on it. All I'm looking for here is to try to make it smooth, follow the grains, so that once it's painted, you won't be able to tell there's caulk really